Hello everyone, welcome along to Act Like a DJ. This episode of the podcast features someone with a wealth of experience and knowledge in the music industry. In fact, he's been DJing for over 25 years and has probably been producing for even longer than that. Absolutely fantastic guy, goes by the name of D Ramirez, a guy from the UK, from Sheffield, now lives in London and has just spent the last 10 days or so in Bali. So I've seen a couple of gigs of his. I hung out with him quite a lot. Really fantastic guy. Great to talk to, great to be around. And I hope that you find the stories and the insights that he has into the music business interesting. So without further ado, here is Act Like a DJ featuring D Ramirez.
Hi, this is Marco Liz, and you're listening to Act Like a DJ with LPR.
Hey, we are Denzel Park, and you're listening to Act Like a DJ with LPR.
Hey guys, this is Stonebridge and you're listening to Act Like a DJ with my boy LPR.
Alright then, boys and girls, I'm here with the infamous D Ramirez, fresh off his couple of gigs that he's done in Bali over the last week or so. He's actually going home later today, so we've had to shoehorn this podcast in, so to speak. But without further ado, let me introduce you to the man himself, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, his background, and all things going on with D Ramirez. So D, real name Dean.
Yes.
Where did D Ramirez come from originally then?
Okay, well, yeah, I think people have gathered by now that D Ramirez isn't actually my real name, right? Which is funny because for a long time, whenever I turn up at a gig, people would expect something completely different to what I look like.
You look a bit like a Ramirez, I reckon. Maybe not this morning, but you know.
So people tend to think, you know, the Spanish name Ramirez, they think that I'm going to be some Hispanic dude, right? And that's the point. It was supposed to be some like legendary, big, Hispanic, New York DJ, right?
And then the pasty fucker turns up.
Yeah. And this skinny, pasty white man walks through the door. People are like, whoa, that's not your real name, is it? So I guess it came from like sort of trying to, because that's the thing about the business is that you can always reinvent yourself, right? And we came from, I came from the early 90s, and I've had loads of different names over the years, but I've never actually used my real name for productions, and it's almost like I think I'm saving my real name for something special, if you know what I mean. And so Ramirez was when I started doing this project, it was very Chus and Chabalos stereo. It was very much the sort of tribal house was the fashion, right? And this is like early 2000s. So it was kind of like, you know, a bit of a piss take, sounding like, you know, this Hispanic DJ, and then also like sort of fitting in with this sort of Iberican Spanish tribal house music, you know. So
was you always going to be a DJ? I mean, or did you do other stuff before you got into the scene, or was it kind of at the right place at the right time, so to speak?
Oh mate, yeah, I never wanted to be a DJ. This is totally an accident. Yeah, I started off as producing music. I was in bands at school, and I used to be a singer in a band.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was a rock band, believe it or not.
Have you sung over any of your tracks?
Like quite a few. Yeah,
nice. I know Sandy Rivera does a lot of that as well. He's just somebody who was here last year, and I remember him. It stays in my mind. He was saying it. So, any tracks that we'll know that you've sung over?
There was a track recently that was "Open Up Your Eyes," which was out on Tool Room. That was me, pitched down a lot, you know, nice. With the Barry White plugin. Yeah, that was me. And then what else did I sing on? I've only done it twice actually, because it's weird listening back to your own voice. You know, you go, oh, I'm not sure about that.
When I go back to edit this podcast, it's exactly the same. I'm listening to it thinking, oh my God, what's going on? But yeah, I get that. Yeah. So you didn't want to be a DJ? You kind of just got into it through school and stuff?
Well, what it was, I was into music and real technology side of music. And very early, I got myself like an old sort of 4-track recorder. And then the Atari came out, right, which was a games computer, but it had Cubase, so you could hook it up to like MIDI synths and trigger drum machines, and you have a little studio, right? So I managed to get myself, when I was 18, an Atari with Cubase, a cracked copy of Cubase on a floppy disk, right? And then that would hook up to this sampler, which was a Roland S10 that used to have something like 2 seconds of sample time, right? You had to make those 2 seconds work.
Yeah.
And then I had this old drum machine, which was a Yamaha or RX-7 or something, and then hooked up to a 4-track tape recorder, so you could do vocals and stuff. So I was really into the sort of music side, and I started making music that way, and then started going to the clubs, getting into house music. I had all the gear, so I started making house music, but of course it was very much DJ led. So I started working with some other DJs in Sheffield, where I lived, and because there was hundreds of them. We used to have a brilliant scene in Sheffield, right? It was amazing at one point. So I sort of collaborated with all these different DJs. One of which was a guy called Neil Hind, and who was an amazing DJ. I had no clue about making music, but he was a brilliant DJ. So I was like, why don't you come in the studio with me, and we'll get together and start making some stuff.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. And he came in and brought all his record collection, and we just raped everything, like every single sound, every beat, loop, anything. We raped it. Because I wasn't the DJ, he'd be like, right, well, because we need to make it DJ friendly, we'll start it with beats and then we'll go into this.
Arrangement wise.
Yeah, he was brilliant at the arrangement, right? So as a collaborative thing, it worked really well. So Neil used to bring his record collection in, right, being the DJ, and we'd take loops from it, any stab sounds, any samples, and then because he was the DJ, he knew the sort of DJ formula of music, which would be you'd have to have beats. You don't understand this when you're just a musician, and you're kind of, you'd have to have a beat intro for a minute or something, or
especially from band as well. It's completely different, isn't it?
Completely different, yeah. So you'd have to have this beat intro, you'd have a beat outro, you'd have you wouldn't sort of like have too much music in the beginning or the end because you didn't want the things to clash, all this stuff. And I sort of started picking it up, but obviously I couldn't DJ at the time. And then we were working together, and we just used to sample everything, right? We would find anything and sample it. And we found this Michael Jackson sample, which was Mama Say, Mama Say, Mama Say. And nobody had used it, and this was 1992 when we sampled it. So we basically made this record, which was just a cut and paste of all sorts of samples. And this record just went stellar, right? It sold something like we had to release it as a white label because of the sample, obviously, And in those days, white labels were cool, right?
Well, white labels for people who were never used vinyl before. White labels was something that came out on a vinyl and wasn't permitted to be used by a label or by the original artist if you used the sample and so on. Yeah. So basically you just had to go and do it all yourself, press them yourself, and then just get rid of them as fast as you could.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times they really caught fire, didn't they? White labels were the best things to have in terms of there was maybe 200 to 500 of them worldwide, and then once they're gone, they're gone. So that's what we're talking about here, is the white label that was not permitted by Michael Jackson, but no, he's dead anyway, doesn't matter.
Definitely not permitted. And 3Beat was the label at the time. I'm probably incriminating a few people here, but they released it as a white label, and they sold 60,000 copies of this white label. This is 60,000. So anyway, long story short, right? I was working with Neil, and then all of a sudden we became like, everybody wanted to know. Everybody wanted to see us DJ. So of course Neil was out there DJing, and I was like stuck in the studio. And because we hadn't had royalties or anything, and I was sort of working as a hairdresser then, I was like smoking tab ends off the floor. He's like out there being this superstar, getting all the girls and that, and I'm just like sat at home, sort of thinking, hang on a minute, sulking, yeah. And I'm like, this ain't right. So I thought, I'm just going to, I better learn to DJ. So I literally got myself, my mate bought one deck, I bought another deck, and I just spent 3 months solid just like mixing, learning. This was like 1994, I think it was. And just because I wanted to get a bit of the limelight that he was getting, right? Because he was going out and DJing. So that was that.
The prima donna within us as a breed seems to come out, doesn't it? And you've got to get a bit of the limelight.
Yeah.
So then, that's a little bit behind D Ramirez and how you started out. How did the Lisa Marie experience come around? Is that with the same guy, or was it with somebody else? And was that an accident again?
Well, this was the record we were talking about, right? Because we sampled the Michael Jackson thing, and it was at the time when Michael Jackson had got married to Lisa Marie Presley, right? And we couldn't obviously use the name that we had at the time for this white label, for this illegal bootleg. So we had to be clever and think of a name, right? So we literally got a stamp with Michael Jackson's big afro hair on it, right? And it says the Lisa Marie Experience around his head. Stamped in the middle, right?
That's really original as well, by the way. That's really outside the box thinking. Well done.
Yeah.
Cool, that.
So, and we all just thought it was a total piss take.
What happened with I've heard about the Chris Eubank trying to pronounce it. What happened there? On Top of the Pops, wasn't it?
Oh mate, that was funny. We did well, yes. So that was the first record we did, right? That sold so well, and then the next one we were just like still sampling everything, and we were like, because we came from a sort of US house background, right? Todd Terry had done this track called "Keep On Jumping." Oh, it was called "Jumping."
Great track.
Yeah, but it was not the version like that came out again. It was just this dubby one, and he'd not sampled the vocals or anything, just a few bits. It was really one of his jack-in sort of tracks, right, with no vocals in it. And we were like, we got the track that he'd sampled. It was the musique, "Keep On Jumping." It was the track, and we were like, hang on a minute, we could just use the whole thing, like the whole "Keep On Jumping," and he'd not used that. He'd just used a few of the samples, and so we sampled that. And next thing, we again put it out on white label, right? And hand delivered it to a few DJs. It was one of them, and people just like lost their shit about this record. And next thing, it's like it got signed to London Records. And then we were on Top of the Pops. It's like number 5 in the charts. So they were like, right, you're going to Top of the Pops. This all happened in about space of 6 months, from smoking tab ends on on the studio floor to then being like chauffeur driven to bloody Top of the Pops studios, right? It was very surreal. Mm-hmm. And
how old were you at the time?
I was 25. 25. I'm not going to say how old I am now, or how many years ago it was. So yeah, we get to do the thing, and it's very. What they'll do is they'll have a camera, and sort of they'll pan between one band and another, sort of, and each band will perform, but they have to do the panning shots in between. I think it's even live. I'm not sure. Is it live? Well, anyway, so what was happening was we had Chris Eubank hosting it, yeah, and obviously he's got the lisp, right?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit of a lisp, and the funny thing was, he couldn't actually. We were stood there waiting to do this performance, and he couldn't say the word, our thing. And the worst thing was, it wasn't at number 5. It's the Lethal Experience. The worst thing was, it was. At number 6, it Suggs with Cecilia.
So the whole thing, the whole spiel was just completely botched.
Yeah, so he had to go. Now number 6, it's Suggs with Cecilia. And number 5, it's the Lethal Experience. And it just took about 15 goes before he could get to us.
Oh, so he was doing takes trying to get it good.
Get it right, because they had to pan from Babylon Zoo, who were playing over there, and come around, do him, and then come over to us, and he just couldn't do it.
Oh, amazing! So that all the surreal moments all came within about 6 months. You were saying,
yeah.
What would you say then would be that the best ever kind of moment that you've had, whether it be just a career highlight or a gig or something like that? Could you pick one?
I would never say it's a DJ experience, because I always get a bit daunted by the DJ experiences. Like I've DJed in front of 20,000 people at one of the biggest festivals in LA, and that to some people that's like the pinnacle of their career. I just find that a bit daunting and a bit impersonal. You know what I mean? You're up there on a stage, and yeah, there's 20,000 people out there, but it's like that doesn't do it for me.
There's no connection.
There's no connection. Yeah. What I really like as DJ experiences are those really small clubs where you've got the people in front of you, and you can see you're just locked into into the crowd, and they just like loving everything you do. The small ones. But the best thing is, I think, as a producer, is to actually hear your music played out by another DJ.
Right.
And so, back in the very early 90s, I did a track. I managed to press 500 copies of another white label myself. I was called Cordial at the time, and I've yet to personally go around and hand deliver them. And I got my Mark II Escort, and I'd drive down to Renaissance, and I'd like try and get into the DJ booth, and Sasha was playing, right? So I handed him this copy of this record. It was Sasha, and didn't think anything of it. And the next week I went to Renaissance where he was playing. He was a resident, and he played it and in front of like thousands of people, and it was just like, oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever. First you made this record yourself, you'd pressed it yourself, you'd personally hand delivered it to the dude, you did all the artwork, you did everything was totally DIY, hand delivered to it, and then he plays it, and it's just like, oh my God.
All comes down to that moment. Then.
It all comes, and you just like, oh, it's just the best thing ever. So cool.
And you're talking back in the day, way before way before social media and stuff where stuff can go viral in 10 seconds. So you did have to do everything the hard way as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like as you say, completely hand deliver stuff, and then to actually find out as well through word of mouth in the DJ community back then that someone else is playing your record. That's kind of like stuff going viral now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in a very stripped back sense.
Yeah.
No, brilliant, amazing. Bali then, this is not your first time here, but you've played, for those who don't know why he's here, you played at Cocoon for New Year's Eve, which was a few days ago, and then the very next day, hangover still fresh in your head, I'm sure, played at Double Six Rooftop for the New Year's Day party. Did you enjoy the gigs?
Oh mate, I've been, as you said, I've been coming to Bali for many years. First came in 2005 and played at the Double Six Club, which is now being flattened and being replaced by the Double Six Hotel, right? And I know the story. The Double Six is, he didn't want it to be a club, did he? The owner, he wanted it to be a proper luxury hotel, but he bolted on this massive nightclub at the top, right? Which he didn't. He just wanted to do chill out stuff, and then obviously it's become one of the biggest parties on the island, doesn't it?
Well, he does kind of the two ideas in one. He does his chill out thing on a day-to-day basis, and that's what it's known for if you're just a hotel guest, but he does his 3 big parties a year, his blowouts, and that's when we get you in, and you do the business, which you certainly did a few days ago, so well done, sir.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
But I mean, so you played at Double Six in 2005?
Yes, at the actual club,
and how was that in comparison to playing a week or so ago? Has Bali changed so much in that time, or?
Mate, it's come every time I come. I've been fortunate to come pretty much every year since then. Well, there was a period of about 5 years when I didn't come. When I came back again, the Double Six Club had been knocked down, and there was nothing on the beachfront. The Seminyak beachfront was clear, like Cocoon used to overlook the sea, didn't it?
Yeah, used to have a great view.
There was nothing there, and I actually played on the beach one time. They set up this thing on the beach.
Yeah.
And God knows how long ago that is. But yeah, each time, and then the W Hotel came, and then the Potato Head. The only thing that used to be there was Coup d'etat, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That sort of really high end thing. But now there's hundreds of things that's like competing against it, and it's like it's become such a sort of hub for. And it almost feels like they're trying to go for that sort of Ibiza vibe, aren't they? Bringing in all those DJs and.
Well, let me tell you, there's no shortage of big names from all genres as well. I mean, regardless of what you're into, if you come to Bali, you can find it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got anything from techno to house to deep house to EDM. I mean, they had Afrojack in Sky Garden just a few days ago, and the amount of money and effort that would go into doing an Afrojack booking, it must be really, really difficult to put it together, and they did it.
Yeah.
So fair play. All the EDM fans, they're going to come in and they're going to do that. They do the festival, which is in August, the Dreamfields and stuff like that. Obviously, a part of Indonesia, Jakarta, do their Jakarta Warehouse project. So there really is something for absolutely everyone, all the tastes, and it's only getting bigger and bigger because there's no shortage of top quality producers, and they're all coming here.
Yeah.
They're either on the way to somewhere or they're stopping over for a holiday, because who wouldn't want to come to Bali for a holiday? You do it every year, don't you?
I do it every year, and my best experience of Bali was how it used to work in Bali was if you were sort of touring Asia, they would say, do you want to come to Bali? We'll bolt on. We'll give you 5 nights in a hotel, and we'll give you some, food and drink if you come and you can play at the club.
Sounds good to me.
One night, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm in, right? Of course, but it would only if you were in the area, because obviously Bali's thousands of miles away from England. So if you were playing like Thailand or sort of anywhere in Asia, you could or Australia, you could sort of come between Bali, bridge it. Yeah, it used to be like that, and it was like that for quite a few times. But then all of a sudden it became like, I started getting offers for, good offers money-wise. And the best one was Coup d'etat, which is, anybody that knows Bali, is like sort of an institution on the beach. It's this very high-end, beautiful restaurant, cafe sunset sort of bar, and it's just like really expensive for Bali. It's an amazing institution. Been there 25 years, hasn't it, or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So, and it's beautiful, family orientated, all the beautiful people go there. It's like, you walk in, it's very serene, the music's cool. 3 times a year they do these mad parties where they'll bring in this like huge 10K sound system.
Function One, most of the time.
Function One, yeah, massive array. They'll build this huge stage and turn it into this like massive super club, right? And they're famous, aren't they? The white parties and the bikini parties.
Yeah, outdoors as well. By the way, this is there's no roofs going on here. This is completely done in the sun and then into the dark hours, isn't it?
Yeah. So they were like, right, and somebody said, "Do you want to come and play the white party in Bali?" And I'm like, well, I don't really know what it is. I've no idea. But they said it's one of the biggest parties on the island, blah blah. And I had no idea what to expect. Anyway, gets to the hotel, gets to the airport, gets picked up by a police escort, right? Because everybody's on the island going to Seminyak for this white party. I get rushed through like presidential service, and eventually walks through to the coup d'etat to see this huge stage set up. I'm like, wow, what have they done here?
What signed up for?
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect. Music was pumping. I was like, I'm thinking this is just not right, you know. Anyway, got to play and it was just incredible. All of the people of Bali were there. It was like a proper party, you know.
Everyone's up for it as well, aren't they? And what year was that when you did the white party?
I think that was about 2000. It probably wasn't last year. The year before. It might be a year before that. So like 2012 possibly. Yeah. Because I was in LA. I had to fly over from America, and then come specially from America for it.
Yeah. So how's touring going at the moment? Are you pretty busy around the world? Is Christmas a good period for you, or a kind of relatively quiet one where you like to spend it at home?
Oh God, no! Christmas and New Year's always for the last for the last 20 years has been a busy period. You know, especially New Year's Eve. There's always something crazy going on. But this year's the best one yet.
Did you hear that, Cocoon? The best one yet.
It's like, do you want to come to Bali for New Year's Eve? Let me think about that for a nanosecond.
Yeah, word of a sign.
I'm like, woohoo! So brought the girlfriend and everything. We've had a brilliant times. Both gigs were amazing. And Cocoon, man, what did you do to Cocoon? It turned into a super club.
Yeah. Well, much like what we were talking about coup d'etat, where it is this kind of beachfront entity, and it caters for the restaurants. You get families going and stuff like that. On a day-to-day basis, Cocoon tends to do much of the same, but to not to the same expense as coup d'etat.
Yeah.
But once a year, they really blow the beans on a huge sound system. They put a roof on, because Bali is notorious for rain on New Year's Eve. As you know, it rains on New Year's Eve. It just does. If it's going to rain for 2 months of the year and it hasn't rained yet, it will begin on New Year's Eve, and then it won't stop until maybe May. It does happen like that. But apparently, according to one of my Balinese friends, this New Year was the first one in his whole lifetime that it hasn't rained, and nobody can believe it. But we put a roof on anyway because we wanted to kind of say, well, fuck you to all you people who haven't put roofs on your venues. But
it wasn't necessary.
It wasn't meant to be this year. We kind of we gambled and it didn't pay off. Having said that, it really gave it an extra dimension, having the roof on. And obviously the light system bouncing off it and stuff like that. But I mean, amazing party, really was. It was packed to the nines from about 8 p.m. And you couldn't buy your way in after 10 o'clock. It wasn't happening. Everything just seemed to just work well, including when you went on at midnight. It was cranking, and you really brought it on. It was amazing. So Cocoon, if you're listening, well done. And obviously me and Dean are really happy with how that went.
Oh, that was amazing. It was amazing just to see what they did with it. They transformed an outdoor pool place into a super club.
Oh yes, that's another thing. They covered the pool.
The pool.
You get an extra 2/3 dance floor space, which was, you couldn't fit an extra body on there, could you?
It was massive as well. It doesn't look that big when you see it with the pool, but when they did what they did, it was like, wow, huge.
Yeah, spot on. So what's next for you then? Are you going anywhere relatively soon? You go home today, by the way. We're all very, very disappointed, very sad about that.
No, not as disappointed as I am, mate. Jesus. I've got to go back to London, and you know what? London's been really strange. It's been warm over the December. We've not actually had winter yet, right? But I hear from a reliable source that it's got quite cold now. So,
but Liverpool's been dealing with all that rain and stuff. So I've heard. So I guess I hope it's on the way, because I don't want you to feel left out at all. So you're busy in the studio at the moment?
Well, it's been sort of, because D Ramirez has been going for I worked out 17 years. Prior to that, at least my experience was about 10 years. Prior to that, there was other incarnations of me. So, I've kind of got to a point where I'm sort of changing around a little bit. I'm sort of thinking that, I'm wanting to try a few new things and some new ideas. And one of the things is when I had a label, Slave, from 2004, and I ran it till about 2009. And it's quite hard work running a label. So I kind of put it to bed at one point, and because I wanted to focus on working with Toolroom, right? I became an exclusive artist with them, and but we sort of things go different ways, and I've gone a different way to Toolroom now, and so I've decided to set my label up again, and it's going to be Slave, still the same, but I need to sort of get it all. It was 2009 since the last. Yeah, so it's got to be all refreshed, and then I've got to do all the A&R, and I've got to bring the teams in of people to work on it, and because there's no money in it now, we've got to get people who want to do it for the experience, and and then there's all the music to get ready. And fortunately, I live in London, so I can get all my sort of other producer friends involved, and it's all very much like sort of I'll scratch your back, you scratch my type of thing. But I'm fortunate to have met loads of people around the world, including yourself, very talented producers that I know I can bring in and sort of to release on the label, to remix tracks on the label, there's a family of people there ready and waiting. So that's going to be my main focus for 2016.
Well, you heard it here first. Like this is an exclusive, right?
Yeah, it's exclusive.
So Slave's coming back, and later on we're going to give you all the social media details to do with that. But yeah, definitely looking forward to getting some stuff out on there.
Yeah.
And have you got anything that's kind of pretty much ready to go, production-wise, which you're thinking of launching with it?
Well, because I write loads of music, and then sort of I try and what I want to do is get it signed on the bigger labels. But I thought, what's the point? I want to do it myself. I've got 13 tracks lying around that are ready to go, pretty much. So I've also got another name that I'm going to be. I won't say who it is because I want it to be sort of I want it to be secret.
Yeah.
I've got a new moniker that I'm going to be working on, and.
Same type of sound, or are you gonna? Is that a completely different sound?
Well, I think what D Ramirez, because of some success, commercial success that I had early on in the career of D Ramirez, Body Rocks, yeah. People tend to think that I'm a commercial artist, and I was just talking to my girlfriend earlier, and she said, having not known you and not heard you DJ, I think that the impression of you is that you're a commercial DJ, right? Because of this track that went to number one, in the charts. And I think that's like the stigma that I've been fighting against, because I'm nowhere near a commercial DJ. Like I will, if I have to, I'll play some big records that I like. But I'm generally quite an underground DJ. But there is this stigma that I've got, I think.
Well, this podcast will help, because people who weren't sure, or they'll listen to this and think, okay, well, I'm getting to know a little bit more about D Ramirez, the music man. Yeah. What you like playing and stuff. I mean, I got to hear it from both sides as well. Cocoon was a more commercial sided gig, which was fine. New Year's Eve tends to be the party, doesn't it?
Yeah.
New Year's Day, on the other hand, it was complete contrast, and it was great. It was. I knew that you were playing stuff that was really it was getting to you, and you could feel it. And I'm definitely going to have to get some music off you before you go as well. So we've got 13 on the back burner at the moment. 13ish tracks. See, I do it the other way. I get like 13 ideas, and then I'll finish one.
Yeah.
Whereas it's great talking to people and seeing how different people work. I mean, I know people who they'll get sent a remix and they'll have it done, sent, mastered in 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can work at such a speed, and if they're in that mode where they can just crank things out. Where for me, I wish I could do that. I really do. I mean, maybe one day, if I've got 17 years under my belt, under one alias, then it might get to the point where I have 13, 14, 15 tracks on the back burner. But I mean, I'm struggling to get one time, mate. It's kind of the world that we live in now. We've got so many. I was talking with another producer a few weeks ago, and he really, really put it in plain English to me. He said, like, don't ever take it personal in the sense that there are so many talented guys out there. Now, whether these guys can DJ, it remains to be seen, because they might just be you know, a 14-year-old who sits behind 15 iMacs and never gets out the house. They can't DJ, they've never DJ, but you put them behind Ableton or Logic and they're absolute wizards.
Yeah, of course.
And they're still sending records to labels just as much as I am.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of, he basically said, you can't take it personal and just keep going with it. You know, if you're not getting replies or if you're getting rejected over this, that and the other, it's kind of, it is what it is at the moment, because there's such, it's a good thing. I mean, the internet's providing people with a platform to be able to send great music to artists as promos, demos to labels and everything in between, bootlegs to the general public. But I mean, what advice would you give people who are trying to break the mold?
There's two things to this argument. You say it's a good thing, but it's not. It's actually a bad thing, because what's happened is it's too saturated. It's too easy now. If you go back to when I first did my white label, it meant I had to get a couple of grand, which when I was like 25 years old, I didn't have access to that money. I then had to go, you know, do all this DIY project myself, including going down to the mastering house, getting it cut onto vinyl, sending the master off to the pressing plant,
putting the man hours in.
Yeah, putting the man hours, and then getting my dad's car, driving down to London, picking up the 500 pieces of vinyl, bringing it back to Sheffield, personally and delivering it.
I hear you.
Do you know what I mean? You had to be serious about what you were doing. It wasn't like, oh, I can just stick it out on the internet.
I fully appreciate that in the sense that it's a click now rather than doing exactly what you've just said.
Yeah.
From a DJ point of view, it is a lot easier to get music now from somebody who's I'm not getting delivered hand records.
Yeah.
You know, from D Ramirez. I'm not Sasha in a DJ booth 15 years ago. So it does have its positives and minuses, but 1,000,000% I can totally appreciate what you're saying in terms of you've got to, or you did have to put all those hours in, and it showed in the end, didn't it? Because you were prepared to do it.
Well, the thing is, and that's what people knew, DJs knew that if they got that piece of vinyl, you were serious about that, right? Okay. So you had to really go to work to get that, and so that meant something to DJs. Now, any spod, any kid with a laptop, and remember, kids are like working with laptops from the age of 2 years old, right? They can be making tunes by the age of 8. Right, and they can just press click. They've got all the details of the record labels. They can send it to you. Nobody's going to listen to it because it's like you're going to get 1 million of those every single day, right? So that's the problem. Yeah, that is the problem. It could be the best piece of music that they've ever heard, but no, they won't even listen to it. So you're right. You can't take it personally, but what you've got to do is you've got to think about clever ways of marketing it, and also rather than just making music that everybody else is doing and trying to make it in 3 hours. You've got to really give them something different and inventive, and you know, something that people are going to go, hold on a minute, that's something fresh. You know what I mean? Instead of one of 1 million records that comes through your inbox every day, you know, and that sounds like everything else. It might be brilliant, but you know, if you can get something that's just a bit more to it. You know,
there's more chance of catching fire that way, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's presented in a way whereas, you know, that kid might have sort of, I'm talking personally here, that kid might have sought me out on social media. He might have like interacted with me a bit on social media. He might have sort of like, you know, bigged me up a bit and said, oh, I loved your set, or he might have come and seen me DJ and gone, oh, I loved it, and sent me a picture. And then he's got my attention then. Mm-hmm. And if he's got my attention, and then when it finally comes to the, oh, do you mind if I send you a track? I'm more likely to listen to it, you know, because he's sort of made an effort.
So it's the 2016 way of putting the man hours in, isn't it? So to speak, rather than getting in the Ford Escort and which is your dad's and driving down to the DJ booth, which is still effective, by the way. I mean, if you can find a Ford Escort, by all means, go and see Dean in his next couple of gigs and pass him a USB with a few records.
Absolutely, that is effective as well. Yeah.
I mean, that's the good thing about having the DJs passing through Bali. There's always that avenue where no matter what type of music I'm making, there will be somebody here in the not too distant future who it's going to be relative to. So I can always, you know, go down to the clubs and say hello and, you know, maybe have a drink with them and stuff. I don't drink at all.
I do,
as you know. But yeah, it is as you say, it's still putting the man hours in, but it's doing it in the kind of the mold of 2016. So any other advice for people who are kind of a little bit frustrated with what we've just been talking about in terms of they are sending stuff out and they're not hearing stuff back? And
well, I just don't think there's any point in doing it that way now, because you're competing with not only, well, let me give you some background. Like in the old days, if you wanted to make music, you'd have to buy equipment, right? And again, it comes down to being really serious about it. You'd have to invest thousands of pounds into it, right? You'd have to learn each piece of equipment. The sampler, you'd have to learn how to program a synthesizer. There was no presets. It was all like knobs and sliders, and then you'd have to learn how to use this computer program. These days, it's almost, you can buy things online now called templates, right? Mm-hmm. So you get yourself a cracked copy of Ableton Live, which everybody does, on your dad's laptop, right? You download a template, and and it's a template. It's an actual track, and it's got all the sounds, it's got all the samples in there, and you can just put it together as you want, So again, it's like, in the old days, you had to be really serious about...
No shortcuts.
Yeah, no shortcuts. Now it's so easy to make music that everybody's doing it, right? And it's like everybody's got access to all these sample libraries that you can download for free from the internet, right? So you've really got to think about, like, rather than sort of just doing that, you've got to think about what you want to be as an artist, and you've got to be unique. You've got to have a USP, mm-hmm. Because if you haven't got a USP, then there's no point. You're going to be out there competing with millions, everybody. Every kid from the age of 5 years old could be the next whoever.
X, Y, Z.
X, Y, Z, yeah. So, that's like a pretty difficult scenario to be in, isn't it? If you're starting out and you want to pop your head above. So how do you do it? You've got to think, well, firstly, it's got to be the music. It's got to be something unique and interesting and a bit different, and then secondly, you've got to think about how you're going to market this music. And I've already touched on it, interacting with your favourite DJs, sort of trying to get in their clique, sort of maybe even like trying to get to work with, maybe even becoming like an engineer for somebody like one of the big DJs who needs engineers. Yeah. Or maybe even just
as part of a label, for example, just putting finishing touches, mastering, and so on.
Yeah.
So what are you going to be looking for specifically for Slave? Is there a certain remit music wise? I know you're talking about having a USP and putting your soul into the music, but is it house? Is it tech house?
Yeah. Well, my sort of sound is very much. It can be ranging from sort of piano screamers all the way down to like really weird techno music.
So people listening, if they're producing techno or piano screamers, they can send you things of anything in between, and of course you'll take that into consideration.
Yeah. There's I work a lot with a label called Noir, and Noir are brilliant because his ethos behind the label is if he likes it, he'll put it out. So, and sometimes you get really deep stuff. Sometimes you get something that's quite driving. It's all cool. But I think it's pretty much like that. If you like it and it's good and it's a bit unique and you can play it, perfect.
Then job done. So all you guys who are sat behind your MacBooks right now and you're on your templates and you downloaded cracked software, get producing some unique stuff, whether it's a piano screamer or a little bit of techno or anything in between, send it over to D Ramirez. He'll have a listen. He'll get it out. Let's talk a little bit then about, this will have happened to you, I'm sure, with your wealth of experience, and people listening maybe are in the same boat. You get a record signed, and then maybe it leads to a management opportunity or an agent's opportunity, and then, I mean, there's a couple of stories in social media right now about people getting a little bit burned. Is there any pitfalls that you can advise people to watch out for? Now, obviously, of course, go into as much detail as you want in this, but in terms of how to not get burned by the system, because it does go on in any form of life. It doesn't have to be music, it can be business, it can be whatever, but in your experience, is there anything that you can say on that?
Well, I think firstly, we were discussing this morning, I think to some extent you have to get a little bit burned to learn, because you can't go into this business knowing everything about it, and the best way to learn anything is the hard way sometimes, because I think a lot of people go into their business thinking, well, everybody's going to be gentlemanly, they're all going to stick to the word, everybody's going to, pay up and give you what you think, what you deserve, and treat you well. No, it's not that. You're going to get ripped off. You're going to get people are going to take you for as far as they can get. They're going to squeeze every last bit out of you, right? Until there's nothing left. And that's just the nature of it, and it's like, because there's no money in the business, and everybody's wanting to get one step above, so it's full of sharks, So I think firstly, being burnt isn't necessarily a bad thing. That'll teach you. But you can't be naive. You can't be naive to think that everybody's going to be, gentlemanly about it, because they won't. They'll just take what they can. For example, like I signed to a label in the 90s, and they sent somebody for me to sign the contract, and I just signed it there and then, because I was young and naive, didn't think about any legal advice or didn't even read the contract. It was just sign on the bottom line, right?
Yeah, it's been signed. Let's go with it. Yeah.
And then the next day, I used to do these PAs where all my tracks, I'd perform them live in a club. I say live. I'd play a backing track and pretend I was playing it, right? And so I did this one at a place called Venus in Nottingham, and Pete Tong was playing. Pete Tong got really pissed off because I kind of interrupted the set. He was just about to come on, and they were like, "Oh no, we've got this guy doing this PA." Anyway, I came on, did my PA, blew the place apart, right? And Pete Tong was like, "Who is this dude?" And he had FFRR at the time, and he got, at the end of it, he got me to one side and he goes, "Right, I'm going to send up my business manager to deal with, to sort something out here." Anyway, they got in touch with me, and they were like, "Right, we want to sign you for FFRR, London Records, biggest label." Pete Tong was behind it. And these other guys who I'd signed to were like, "No, you've signed the contract. You can't." They knew what they were doing, right? Yeah. So anyway, as it turned out later on, it didn't matter if I'd signed the contract or not. It wasn't legal, because A, I didn't read it, and then you also got to seek legal advice for the contract to be actually legally binding.
Okay.
Right? Nobody knows that. If you haven't sought legal advice, it doesn't mean anything. Because anybody can give you a piece of paper and you sign it, but if you don't know what you're signing, it doesn't mean nothing, right? So I got tied into this contract with this shit label, and so as it turned out though, this shit label started working with FFRR, and the single "Keep On Jumping" came out on FFRR.
Right, so
ironically, yeah. So it worked its way out eventually, yeah. But at the time, I was like, "Oh, I could have been with FFRR in the first place." But,
yeah.
And then the second one was, I got offered a remix, and it was the guys Body Rocks, and so they were like, "Right, we'll give you 500 quid for the remix." They're an unknown band. It was actually John Pern from Full Intentions. But he went off and did something else with a guy called Nick Bridges. It was their band, and they were signed to a label called I Industries. And so they had this track, and they put it out, and it hadn't done anything. It's got like a original vocal on it. It's got Normski rapping on it. It was like kind of a bit of a mashup of, it was funky house, funky electro house, right? So they said, "Do you want to remix it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's a few parts in there. Let me do it." So they said, "You've got to sign this contract first." Again, didn't sign. I didn't look at it. Just sort of signed it. Thought, fuck it, it's only a remix. I get my 500 quid. Fine, perfect. Spent a good time doing this remix, but as it happened, when I started doing it, I'm thinking, this isn't right for D Ramirez. It's too funky, and there's all these parts I don't really like, and the vocal don't work, and there's there's nothing. And the only bit that was any good that I could use was this vocoder bit that went yeah, right. That was it. So I thought, so I started messing around with this new synthesizer.
So the remix becomes an original.
Yeah, messing around with this synthesizer. Came out with this sound which was like, whoa, this sounds amazing. Like detuned oscillator type thing. It was like a detuned third.
Oh, there's a Future Music video on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it Future Music?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the video, yeah.
Yeah. So I found this sound, and then I'm like, dun 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 dun, and I'm like, what? That's amazing. So this sound then spawned this riff. And then I put some portamento on it, and it was like, wow, this is just brilliant. And so I then stuck this beat behind it and used this yeah every now and then. And so it was totally original track. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it, but then I kept getting people calling me from Ibiza saying that it's just blown up. All the DC10, everybody was playing it there. Every DJ was playing it. And then I get people saying, "Oh, Norman Jay's playing it at the Nottingham Carnival. It's on like one of the big Sancho Panza thing that he used to do." And then, oh God, they're playing it so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. It's blowing up. I'm like, brilliant, yeah. And then they go, right, we're going to put a vocal on it. We've got this girl, Luciana. We've got her to do this vocal. Can you put the vocal on the track? I.e., like making a 7-inch edit of it. So it wasn't the original vocal from the original track that we were.
It became yours with this.
It became me with a new vocal on it, right? Still under the guise of Body Rocks, right? So I then put the vocal on, again not thinking anything of it. They were like, well, we'll give you 500 quid to do for your time in the studio, right? Didn't think of that, innit? So then I went off touring, and I was in Australia at the time, and we got a phone call saying, Body Rocks is number 1 in the charts. I'm like, this is brilliant, right? But prior to that, I'd already spoke to the guys, and I'd said to them, look, do you think that I should have some publishing? You know, as in, because I'm the total writer of this record.
This is the band you
Yeah,
spoke to?
yeah. I think I really should have some publishing. And Nick swears he doesn't remember saying this, but he says to me, he says, mate, there's nothing left. We've got so-and-so, she's taking some, we've got him, we've got the original writer, we've got him over there. It's all been split out, there's nothing left. And I'm like, fair enough. Again, before it had blown up, I'm like, whatever. So, of course, phone call, number 1. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. I was, off the back of this track, I'd become famous, right? And I was getting booked all over the world. So, in some respects, it wasn't such a bad thing, you know. But I stopped. And then the next thing happened was the Ivor Novello Awards, which is for prestigious songwriting award. It got nominated for an Ivor Novello Award, right? So, and this is my version of that track, right? But it was them that went and accepted the award.
On your behalf.
On my behalf. They didn't even say anything about me. It was nothing to do with me.
So this is your track with the new vocal, and they collect the award.
They collect the award.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm getting more and more pissed off. I'm thinking, hang on. So they didn't give me any publishing.
You got a pretty good deal out of this, mate.
Yeah. And then I heard that they got a £200,000 advance from their publishers for that track. An advance.
So there could have been 1% gone your way, surely.
There could have been, a couple of grand or 1%. Yeah, 1%. And I'm just thinking, this ain't right. And and it's one of many stories. There's a few more like it. But I tried to sort of take them to court, but it would have been a lot of money and expenses. It would have been an absolute fortune for lawyers, and then you might not have won, and then they might have spent all the money anyway, and they would have been paying you £1 a week for the rest of their life. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
do you still, to this day, get in like 90% of your gigs get asked to play the Body Rocks?
It was like that at first, but I ended up hating the record, so I stopped playing it.
But yeah, you played it, Cocoon.
Yeah.
I mean, I play it. We have a pool party once a month in the high season.
Splash.
And, Splash. There we go. And it gets a little bit of love from me every now and again.
Wicked.
And still just gets as good a reaction as ever, because it's just got that. If it as well as it done, if it would have came out in, I don't know, a few years later, it would have. I mean, people copied your sound, and that's the only reason why I'm saying this is because they copied it, and it took them a few years to get that sound more popular and more common.
Yeah.
Whereas yours was just completely unique. But there couldn't be a record to follow yours or to go before yours that you could have kind of bridged the genres.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were playing house and then you went to, because it was kind of an electro type thing, wasn't it? I guess maybe somebody like Dirty South, you could have played the Dirty South record at the time, and it would have bridged the gap quite nicely. But years after, tons of people are making the D Ramirez sound, even as far as last year.
Oliver Heldens.
Yeah, there was. You know what I mean? It really is a gateway for producers now to make a lot of money, and you still didn't get your 1%.
Where's my 1%?
So if you're listening, full intention guys, come on, sort of us 1% out. You're not asking for a lot. So have you got any gig stories for us then? So what's I mean, you've got a ton of years behind you. You must have a couple of bad experiences. I don't want to say bad experiences, well, I've just said it. But I mean, like stuff where people have gone on and they've played the Body Rocks 10 minutes before you've gone on or something like that. Has it ever happened?
Oh, mate, I've got too many stories of things that have happened, crazy stuff. One of them was this big festival in LA I was talking about, 20,000 people, and it's been filmed, right? And Dada Life are playing before me. And at the time I was like travelling around with a big tractor set up, right? I had this S4 laptop. Took a bit of setting up, but I didn't have a tour manager to do it because it was too expensive. So I rocks up at this gig, 20,000 people all going mental. Big screen with the video of like the DJs on this screen, all like that. So normally what they do in them circumstances, they'll have another stage that you go and set up on, and then they'll wheel this other stage out, right? So it's just a seamless switch. I couldn't get in because Dada Life were jumping up and down, going crazy. And then at one point they just switched the music off and went, "Ladies and gentlemen, D Ramirez," right? And I'm like, "Fuck, I've got it.
You need 5 minutes.
I need like a good 10 minutes at least to set it up." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like literally freaking out. And somebody had filmed it from down below, and they could see there's my face on this thing going, screaming like that, motherfuckers, and swearing and there's just like this massive screen of my face, and it was awful.
Is that available online for anyone to go and
sure, it's there. Yeah.
Have a little search. But what was the festival called again?
So that was one. Actually, recently I went all the way to Sri Lanka. Right, it's not far. It's not near, of course.
What's it like there?
It's nice. It's a bit like Bali, quite tropical and beautiful place. Really nice people. Everybody speaks English and lovely. But they booked me for this festival outdoors. Anyway, I get to the place and I'm like, "What kind of music is it?" And he goes, "Oh, it's EDM." I'm like, "Okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because
it's the buzzword.
It's the buzzword, yeah. Electronic dance music. Let's put it under that bracket, right?" So anyway, I get there and they're playing the hardest hit. Not only that, it had been raining all day, right? So I had to like wade through like the thickest mud to get to the stage.
Nice.
Getting bit by ants all the way as I'm walking there. Anyway, because it had been raining, there was only 200 people. It was 10,000 people supposed to be there. 200 people had turned up, and the DJ before is just banging out the hardest EDM stuff, big cheesy breakdowns, full on. Everything. The 200 people at the front are like, "Hey!" And I'm like, "What's going on? Why would you book me? I don't play this music. The only thing it's going to do is to send them all home." So I'm like, getting bit by ants. They're playing massive EDM. It's pissing it down with rain. There's 200 people out there, and they're like, "Are you ready to go on?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" I was praying literally. So anyway, just before I was about to go on, "Please turn up." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on here then?" And the next thing, "Please come up and turn off the sound system. Switch it off completely." I'm like, "Brilliant, the gods were listening, brilliant."
Got away with one.
They answered my prayer, switched me off, and I went home.
Yeah, so
didn't even play.
Any promoters listening, he doesn't play all big room stuff, so don't book him for that.
No.
Oh, brilliant. So you go home tonight, you're back in the studio the next day or two, I guess, probably how long does it take, 20 hours to get home?
Yes, 10 hours and then a 2 hour, yeah, 20 hours.
Oh mate, a couple of Xanax, you'll be good to go, just zonk out. So anything that's already been signed that we can, because this is going to go out in a couple of days time, so when people start to listen to it, is there anything that's kind of forthcoming from you?
No, not yet. It's all going to be coming on the label. And
so you're just waiting to do the big rebrand.
So if anybody's listening, basically I've been quiet for the last sort of 6 months because I've been writing the music and I've been planning the label and getting the artwork done, and I've also been sort of doing other projects. So this is the year when there's going to be a lot of action from D Ramirez and team.
Yeah, and the other aliases that we can't really talk about at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I was to ask you what your favourite record is, I don't mean of somebody else, I mean your personal favourites of your own, and what would be your favourite?
I think it's going to be, we're going back to 2006, I did a remix for Roger Sanchez and it was called Lost, and it's very electro of its time, but I think as production wise it's mixed down and everything. It was one of those that I think it's perfection almost.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So that's the one that holds the dearest to you.
Yeah.
So go and check out the D Ramirez remix of Roger Sanchez Lost.
Roger Sanchez Lost.
And do me a favour and buy it. Let's get it back into the beatbox.
Yeah.
Did it come out on Electro, did it, in the charts?
Oh yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah,
Let's get it back in the Electro charts. I'm sure there's not much Electro being bought in 2016.
Yeah.
Let's sort it out. Get it done.
Yeah.
Right, well, we've got about a couple more minutes for you to talk about all things going on social media. So how can people get in touch with you, and if they want to send you a tweet, if they want to send you a Facebook message, what are you most active on, and what do you prefer to communicate with your fans through?
Well, when I do get the time, I've got all the social media, and it's basically Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's all D Ramirez Music, all one word. DRAMIREZ MUSIC. music, D Ramirez music.
And are you pretty active with communicating to people? I mean, if they send you a message, are you likely to just ignore me or something like that? If I drop you a message with the link to the podcast and you don't retweet it,
mate, you know, first hand I'm shit, right? I'm not going to pretend, but I will get back.
I've sent D Ramirez so much music in the last 8 or 9 months, and it took me till this morning to actually get his ears around some of it. And by his own admission, he's useless when it comes to keeping on top of stuff like that. Yeah. But having said that, you are a busy man, sir. You're in the studio 12-15 hours a day, most days, if I'm not mistaken.
Every day, mate. Yeah.
So it's a big part of your life, and as you say, even though you've been quite quiet, it's not for want of not having music, because you've got 13-14 stuff on the back burner. So 2016 is going to have to be a big year for you, mate, but I'm looking forward to it, and I know people are going to be you put yourself on a pedestal now, so people are going to be waiting for the label to drop in there and stuff like that.
It's coming.
Good news, mate. I'm really happy, and if I can help out in any way, and if people listening are skilled in any sort of musical genre and they want to send Dean some stuff, can they get in touch with you now ahead of the label being rebranded? Can they still send you stuff if they've got stuff waiting?
Yeah.
What's the best way to send you a demo?
At the minute, I think the best way, until I get the all the emails set up and the promo mail set up, just send me via Facebook, via D Ramirez Music. And I do have somebody that looks at that for me and makes sure that things get seen. I've got a label manager as well, so send a demo there for now.
So your inbox off your fan page, right?
Yeah, it's an inbox of the fan page, and then we will promise at some point we will get to listen to it.
It will get listened to.
Yeah.
So all you 200 million people who were between the ages of 8 and 13 who were producing all the big room stuff, get it finished, get it brick walled to death, and get it over to D Ramirez's inbox. Can you just give your social media out one more time, your Facebook one, just so that they know what it is that they can send it to? It's facebook.com/D Ramirez Music.
D Ramirez Music, yeah.
There you go, a bit of a tongue twister. Yeah. I went into Chris Eubank.
Yeah. It's D Ramirez.
Thanks so much for doing this, mate, and I wish you a safe journey home. And for all those who are listening, I'm about to go and get a folder's worth of music off Dean, so please, see you on the next one. See you later.
So there we go, that was Act Like a DJ, another episode done and dusted. I am LPR, I've been your host for the last hour or so. You can catch me on my social media if you want to follow me and see what's going on in my life over here in Bali, at Lloyd Pringle LPR on Twitter. That's at LLOYD Pringle LPR on Twitter. And on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/LPR Music. Thanks for tuning in, hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you, see you later.